When you speak a second language, you don't just lose your vocabulary, you actually lose your entire personality.
Oh my God, yes. You become this colder, flatter, and sometimes just completely humorless version of yourself.
It is wild. Welcome back to English Unfiltered, guys. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jamie.
And today we are jumping straight into this hidden psychological conflict between your native true self and your English identity. Because speaking a second language literally changes who you are.
It really does. I mean, people constantly tell us they feel like they suddenly sound less intelligent.
Oh.
Or, they get overly submissive. It honestly just feels like acting, and it is completely exhausting.
Right. Imagine trying to drive a manual transmission car in heavy traffic while someone forces you to solve complex math problems out loud.
That sounds like an actual nightmare.
Exactly. You aren't going to be charming or sarcastic in that moment. You simply do not have the brain space left to do anything but, try not to crash.
And that crash avoidance is actually what psychologists call cognitive overload. Because in your native language, communication is just automatic.
Yeah, you don't even think about it.
Right. Your timing, your spontaneity, your emotional reactions, they all operate unconsciously.
Mm-hmm.
But in English, your brain enters this crazy high monitoring state. You are translating, tracking grammar rules, and scanning your memory for vocabulary all at the exact same time.
Not to mention evaluating social risk in real time. Your brain is constantly asking, wait, did I just sound rude? Was that the right tone?
Yes. The brain is processing so much competing data that it triggers a literal survival mode.
Wait, survival mode? Really?
Literally. To conserve mental energy, your brain prioritizes the mechanical act of just getting the words out over authenticity. It effectively shuts down your spontaneity.
Okay, but if the brain is just processing language, why does it treat speaking English like an active threat? Why go into a defensive survival mode at all?
Well, that comes down to how our brains emotionally wire language in the first place. I mean, think about your native language.
Right, like when you're a kid.
Exactly. You learned it as a toddler, surrounded by family, learning through play and affection without any real judgment. So it is hardwired into your limbic system, which is the emotional center of your brain. It represents deep psychological comfort.
Oh, wow. Whereas English, for most people anyway, is conditioned much later in life. Usually in environments that are just defined by high pressure.
Totally. School exams, rigid classrooms, stressful workplaces.
Right. You're constantly being graded or judged.
And that environment creates a totally different neurological foundation. Your neural pathways for English are basically built on performance anxiety, testing, and a fear of embarrassment.
That is so true.
Because of this conditioning, the primary goal of your conversation actually shifts. In a native language, your neurological goal is connection. But in a second language, the goal shifts entirely to avoiding mistakes.
Okay, wait, let me push back on this for a second. Isn't it possible that someone isn't actually overwhelmed by a fear of mistakes, but they just lack the vocabulary?
How do you mean?
If you don't know the specific word for a punchline, you obviously can't make the joke. It seems like a simple data gap, not some deep psychological crisis.
See, that is a completely logical assumption. But here is the weird part. Even when advanced speakers know the vocabulary perfectly, they still struggle to be funny or charismatic.
Wait, really? Why?
Because of the brain's neurological self-monitoring system. When you speak a second language, your prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for filtering and self-control, it basically goes into overdrive to prevent errors.
So it's like a hyperactive filter.
Exactly. And this hypervigilance actually suppresses the emotional centers of the brain. So the vocabulary is sitting right there in your memory, but the emotional energy required to deliver it naturally is blocked by this neurological filter.
Oh my God, that explains why vocal energy drops or eye contact fades and the natural rhythm of a conversation just disappears.
Yes, you aren't lacking words. You are trapped behind a wall of self-monitoring.
This is what nobody tells learners. Which means when you interact with an insecure or hyper-formal English speaker, you aren't seeing their actual personality at all. You're just interacting with their fear of judgment.
Exactly. You're interacting with their cognitive overload. But honestly, there is a profound sense of relief here.
Oh, thank God. Tell me it gets better.
It does. This state is not permanent. As fluency increases and the mechanics of the language become automatic, that cognitive load finally drops.
Makes sense. The brain doesn't have to work as hard.
Right. The prefrontal cortex relaxes its grip and the brain gets its processing space back.
And the personality returns.
Exactly. The humor, the natural reactions, the ability to tell a captivating story, it all slowly comes back online.
Yeah.
You literally stop monitoring and start connecting again.
That is amazing. But honestly, this goes even deeper. Because language doesn't just change how you communicate. It temporarily changes how your identity is expressed.
It really does. Advanced bilinguals frequently say that they possess entirely different, fully functioning emotional identities, depending on the language they're speaking at that exact moment.
You essentially build a completely distinct emotional architecture inside that second language.
Which is wild to think about.
It really is. And it leaves you with a pretty profound question to mull over after this. If mastering a new language eventually builds completely separate emotional identity, which version of you is the real you?